Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Ancient Mysteries Unearthed. I'm your host, Chris Noble, and today we have a very interesting guest, Yuri Lee. She is a highly intuitive channel, medicine woman, and a clinical hypnotherapist whose work bridges ancient healing with deep subconscious transformation. She's trained in many modalities such as RTT, past life regression, breathwork, Czech holistic practices, and universal Tao. Yuri creates heart opening ceremonies that help people across many paths of life with acquiring wisdom from the past, from the astral realms, and from multidimensional spaces for profound healing. Also, Yuri has a very fascinating story where she experienced a life altering spiritual encounter during a meditation that transported her to another dimension, a moment that revealed her true calling. Guided by that intuition, she devoted her life to holistic healing, working with nature medicines, sacred plants, and ancient techniques. Through sacred site journeys, including the Amazon and the high Andes, which I'm definitely going to ask her about today, Yuri discovered that true healing comes from reprogramming the subconscious, releasing old wounds, and reconnecting with the divine through ceremonial practice. So, without further ado, I'd love to welcome to the show today Yuri Lee. How are you doing, Yuri?
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I'd love to start off the show with just asking you, how did you get to where you are today? It sounded like you had a profound moment specifically that really sparked this path. I would love for you to tell us a bit more of that story.
Yes, I was in my mid 30s. I had, it's just like everybody else. I had 9 to 5 jobs, good jobs, paid for my bills, and something that I thought that I was meant to do. I was working in fashion industry downtown LA, Midtown, New York City as a fashionista, and I had a couple of challenges going on in my life. I had relationship challenges, and I had this sore ache that's happening in my heart. So that's the initiation of me going into path that I'm in right now, but that was about 20 years ago, actually.
Wow, I love that. So then what continued you on your path then?
Yeah, so at the time we didn't have this type of, or I wasn't really connected to the spiritual field. So I just went back to church, the Christian church, to have some answers from God. And what I did was about 90 days of meditation, prayer meditation, just by myself in the morning when I wake up and um, the nighttime when I go to bed, I would take about 15 to 20 minutes dedicated for the meditation, looking for an answer from God. And there wasn't an answer about what I ended up doing. End of about 3 months of doing this practice, I did this surrendering thing that is very popular right now. Um, it was more like a giving up of this desire to meet somebody for marriage or be in a path that was told to be on, and I just gave it to God. I just gave it to divine, just like whatever that you have planned for me, I will follow. And that's when I got this engagement with the spirit, and I was able to listen from this other side.
And isn't that incredible, Yuri, when you take those moments and that time to search within yourself, right? And there's just so many people who have turned to meditation in those times. Obviously, many ancient cultures would do this as a very normal practice, of course, to find answers. We look on the internet, right? These days, we go into Wi-Fi to find answers and information. But of course, this is an internal type of Wi-Fi, an internal type of connection that you're tapping into. So this is beautiful, the journey that you had with your awakening. What led you to go to these sacred sites and these really powerful, incredible, mysterious places in the world? And what led you to go to these places? And what did you experience there? It sounded like you had some pretty profound experiences.
Yeah, so first time when I engaged the spirit, or actually it was the moment of me awakening, and that happened after 90 days of my prayer practice. And I was engaged with this God's voice telling me to stop what you're doing and help others to heal. And I had no idea what to do, but what I engaged was I actually met my ex-husband who was already in this holistic field and knew a lot of different healers of the world. We got together and quickly we actually ended up getting married, and we had some challenges in our marriage. He has some severe anger issues that was challenging our marriage, and that got us to try to find a cure that could help our marriage. So we ended up actually going to all these different types of sites and looking for shamans, different modalities. He drank ayahuasca, San Pedro's, all of these things to help us, for us to be together as a family. And it actually ended up having me to walk the path as a practitioner of this shamanic practice.
Yeah, and so when you started this path of the shamanic practices, what was that like for you? Was it a very foreign idea? Were you not ready for it? And where did that take you in your shamanic practice?
Yeah, so I never really, in conscious mind, I never had this idea or desire or dream to become a priestess or shamans or goddess leaders. None of that was something in my consciousness. I just knew that I wanted to do something that make people feel better because I wasn't feeling very good within my marriage. And physically, I tried, and my husband, we tried everything that we could with utilizing superfood and herbs, and um, incorporated other practices such as forgiveness and prayers and everything that you knew we tried. And that's what got us to go to a foreign country to even find some cure. And when I was engaging, still, I wasn't really sure where I meant to go. That's why I had several different modality facilitation program that I mastered, because I thought maybe I needed to be a naturopath, maybe I wanted to be a hypnotherapist. So I'm just walking on this different path because I didn't know where to go. What got me was that when I actually moved to Sedona, everything kind of like got together, and I just kind of knew that this was something that I did from my past lives. And when I was doing a time travel, I was able to see myself facilitating all these things from many different past lives that I lived through as a priestess. So it was very familiar in that moment. And I was able to sort of like get all these pieces together and practice what I do right now in ceremony or retreats. And I also knew why I was challenged with my relationship, because it was something that I couldn't overcome from my past lives. Also, the role as a priestess, I was this very insecure priestess who had a gift to make medicine and spread my messages, but I was shy and I was insecure, so I was always kind of in the backstage, not willing to move forward. And this is what I needed to overcome. So that's what I'm working on, to be more on the stage, to be able to share the wisdom that accumulated over many, many lifetimes.
It's so fascinating. I think it's important these days to recognize the multidimensional nature of reality. And there's a lot of science to start proving the existence of past lives. And, science just catches up typically to the metaphysics or spirituality, I find, to explain one another. And it's fascinating with the past lives. It's something I've also been looking into more and more throughout my life. And what really blows my mind is that we can carry over trauma, like our soul can carry over trauma and limiting beliefs, programs, and whatnot from other lifetimes. So sometimes, for our watching and listening audience, if you're going through something, it actually could be something that is affecting you from a previous life. So Yuri, for our audience that might
Uh-huh.
be, similar to you and having experienced something challenging in their life, but maybe it is connected to a past life, what would you say to these people? Like, how do you start to work with healing past life traumas?
Well, first of all, you want to understand what your challenges are. And because I'm a past life regression therapist, I engage hundreds of people, facilitated sessions, and that's how I learned that this is not just me fantasizing, it's just something that everybody actually went through. Every single person I facilitated past lives, they have this pattern. They have this pattern and stories they live at the moment. And even though you were in different countries or different sex, um, different roles that they play, the pattern actually indicates it's the same story. The challenge that you're living through, not only from your past life, you actually live that in your childhood as well in relation to your mother, father, or somebody who you're close to in your childhood first. In this lifetime, you engage that. And then what we meant to do is to overcome that by growing as an adult. But it's very challenging the way our society is set up. The system doesn't necessarily work. We don't have the kind of support to engage deeper into soul level. So we just take pills and we just go to therapist and talk about it, but there is no result. Once you start understanding your patterns and stories, and you start regress you back to your childhood and your past lives, you understand you're repeating same pattern over and over again. Then you have a better understanding of what your challenges are meant for you to overcome. So understanding first of your stories and pattern is the most important thing that you can do for your healing journey.
100%, right? And when we recognize patterns, that's how we know how to disrupt the patterns or shift the patterns, but it brings it into the conscious mind, right? And that's how we
Correct.
can, yeah, that's how we can work with that. In your vast variety of other modalities that you do, so how else do you incorporate them? Or is it depending on, I guess, the session that you're doing where you would bring in different modalities? Like, do you have I guess for lack of a better word, do you have your favorite modalities that you work with outside of past life regressions?
So I love facilitating breathwork ceremony because with my breathwork ceremony, what happens is that people not only go back to past, but they are able to go to this different multidimensional um, field for them to understand the connection that they're dealing with. Not only the challenge, but something that they could be given from that space because it's another dimensional message from your other self that is giving you the hint, giving you a little bit of messages for you to take it to move forward. At the same time, what's happening during the breath work is that you get to actually release something that is entangled and blocked within your emotional field. And it also happened to actually boost your actually immune system and also help you to get healthier. What I've seen through breathwork practice is that people can heal a lot of different things that is uncurable.
Yeah, I've also heard a lot. I mean, I've seen it myself in my life, experienced it as well, and seen many examples of miraculous things that have come out of breath work. And I mean, something obviously so simple, but it's an ancient practice, an ancient modality of essentially optimizing our bodies. I mean, our bodies are technology as well. And we just don't, we think we always look outside of ourselves for technology, but there's so much we can do within that obviously can shift your state, releases DMT and all these other things, right?
Correct.
I love breath work. It's a fantastic modality. What do you find then, Yuri, in your work with people probably from all walks of life? What do you find today are the most common issues people are coming to you with? What are people struggling with right now?
So consciously, we basically know everything, especially these days with online access, especially with AI, just giving us all the information. Well, information overloaded in our conscious mind. What I see the most struggle is when you know everything, your body isn't able to execute the plan, whether it's a healing or to make something happen in your life that is purposeful. You know what to do in your mind, but you're not able to follow through the path. And that is because subconsciously there is a conflict going on within your mind. So even though you know what to eat, for example, your subconscious, there is a reason why subconscious is winning so that you're not eating healthy. So that is the biggest challenge we have. Like we know that we need to get out of certain relationship, but you're not. You know that you want to stop 9 to 5 jobs and do something creative, more purpose for your path, and you're not doing that. And it's not just like a year. It's something that people struggle for 5 years, 10 years, and still not doing that. And that is because your subconscious is conflicted with what you know.
100%, and we see it everywhere, right? It's just there's just so much happening, I think, in so many aspects of life now that we're overwhelmed, to say the very least. And what kind of practices or advice would you give to these people, just in a general sense? Obviously, if they work with you one-on-one, I know it becomes much more in depth, but just for the podcast today, do you have any words of wisdom to share with the information overload for people? What could we do in a simple sense to help with that, make it easier for ourselves?
Right. So subconscious pattern shifting happens when you're in theta state. When you're in theta state is the time when you are just waking up or when you're about to fall asleep. When you're meditating, that's when your subconscious is more open and receptive to receive a new information. So that's why the meditation and prayer works really well. And that's the reason why how I actually tap into connecting to other dimension basically 20 years ago. So that's what I recommend. It's something that you don't need to do it with me. It's something that you can do it by yourself. Morning prayer meditation, nighttime meditation and prayer is one of the best way you can incorporate daily. The other thing earlier I mentioned breath work. If there is a way that you can practice breath work ceremony in more regular basis, could be super helpful because you're able to access something ordinary beyond your practical daily life. So if there is a place where you can go and do that, you could definitely participate without spending so much of your energy and investment into it. Um, I also recommend doing some microdose with the different types of plants. I don't not only work with psilocybin, but I also work with amanita, which is an subconscious mushrooms that I developed. You don't really feel anything like psilocybin, but it's because it's a subconscious opening mushroom. So you get to actually access those patterns and stories from your other dimension in your dream state, and you're able to release and process it out in daily basis. So those are what I recommend.
That's super helpful. Thank you, Yuri. Yeah, 100%. And, for our audience, it can be so simple. You don't have to also necessarily meditate, for long periods of time. If you're really, really busy, 5, 10 minutes a day is still better than nothing. And
Yes.
especially if it's first thing in the morning, it's usually if people have very busy lives, I tell them like you can always then squeeze something in the first thing, like even before you go to the bathroom, just meditate. If you have to, you go do your thing, but like meditate first thing in the morning when you wake up, because you're already in theta, like you were saying, Yuri, but you're not on your phone yet. The day has not started. And so I find, especially with meditation, it's like I can be traveling, I can be busy, I can be anywhere in the world. I can always meditate first thing in the morning. At nighttime too, if that's great. But first thing in the morning, especially, I find I think for busy lives is the most easy for people. So that's fascinating. And I have a question. So myself as a musician, I always have to ask with these modalities, do you incorporate sound at all? Music, sound?
Yes.
How so then, Yuri? How do you incorporate that? Maybe with breath work or even with microdosing, I know it can be used as well.
Yeah, so when I'm facilitating either breathwork ceremony or plant ceremony, I utilize the sounds, the music, has a different frequencies. If you're a musician, you know, each tones and rhythm carries a certain frequency that could be very healing and that could be very supportive for you to move it through. I also drum when I do the breath work that aligns with your heart chakra. So it helps opening your heart when I'm facilitating a breathwork ceremony. Um, when you're microdosing, it's also nice to incorporate music, but you want to understand what kind of music, what kind of sounds am I actually bringing into your field? Because music has frequency and it has the power to be able to carry something around you, even the food and the medicine and anything around you, it can actually multiply the frequency. So I feel it's super important that you choose the high frequency music and sounds in your daily life.
100%. And that's something I've been researching a long, long time, of course, with as a musician, and I write therapeutic music, so it's something very close to my heart. And you're right, Yuri, it's something that's very important to be careful of selection, I think. It's you just don't wanna put on any music when you're having a psilocybin journey. Anyone who's done a psilocybin journey or any psychedelic knows exactly why. You don't want
Yes.
anything, so you're very sensitive in these times and in these states, so you wanna make sure that the frequencies in the music are soothing and are, conducive to what you're trying to go for in that, given ceremony as well. So you can really I feel like music can be its own psychedelic sometimes. I mean, at a concert or certain moments when you're playing music, or drumming, you just can go into these incredible altered states. And that's
Yes.
also, its own form. I'm sure you experienced that with your drumming probably, right?
Yes. I would say as much as the plants, the drumming and the music is the medicine, part of the medicine on that journey. It's the one of the most important thing that I very carefully select because it's going to be with your frequency on that journey. So when you are listening, and that this is the reason why I don't watch anything violent, because that is going to multiply, especially if you are on any kind of a healing modalities like microdosing, and then you are engaging the very violent heavy metal type of frequency, then it's going to trigger you tremendously, actually. It triggers me. Just me listening to something that is not natural, it triggers my nervous system. And we are actually right now traumatized souls on this earth. So we don't want to add on extra stress. And those music, violent and heavy metal type of music, are going to give your body more stress than relief.
100%. 100%. And you just said something back there I'm curious about. So there's a lot of traumatized souls. We're all traumatized souls in some ways
Mhm.
on this planet. What do you mean by that, Yuri? What are you saying there? Like, how do you understand that to be the way
How,
to be the
yes. How you understand is for as a practitioner, the people who's coming, I mean, 1 out of 2, they are struggling with depression and anxiety. This is not normal. And beyond our physical challenges, the symptoms that we're dealing with, and you just look outside and see what's going on. Look at the supermarket, look at our hospital, medical practice, and see the people who are just walking around. It's just not normal, right? And it's a synonymous with what the Gaia is going through. When you're looking at the Gaia, people are just basically shocked at where our Gaia is at. Our water is dirty, our air is unclean, our forest is being destroyed, and we have garbage is just floating around everywhere, right? The Gaia represent ourselves. Gaia is sick and had enough, and it now is about the time the Gaia is about to explore. And that is basically synonymous with where our humanity is at, because the way that we treat Gaia is the way we actually treat ourselves. We just put the garbage out, people just smoke cigarettes and then just toss it, and they just give out animals, whatever that they feel like they want for just pleasure and for entertainment without any kind of consciousness. That's how we are treating ourselves. And what do we deal with? People who are confused, people who don't know the path they need to go, people who are unwilling to live their life, and drug uses and suicidal rates are skyrocketing. These are not the way the human beings are supposed to live on the earth. So it's not just affecting them, it's affecting us because we are all connected. So we engage people. We know everyone who's sick. We know people who are going through these mental disorders and physical diseases that is challenging their life everywhere. Some people in our family are dealing with that, right? 1 out of 2 are actually going through these mental disorders right now. It's crazy.
It is nuts. It's absolutely insane, that it's normal. That
Exactly right.
our horrible mental health and physical health is really, I know the life expectancy in the US is actually going down, like it's, we're reversing, we're regressing in a lot of ways, and at the same time, I look at what's happening, and there's another side of it that I see, which is that we're ascending, and we are changing, and the old world is crumbling, and that's why we see a lot of chaos and we see a lot of things not working. But I also think that we're recognizing more how much isn't working, so that we can start to find solutions and fix these things. And I think people like yourself, Yuri, and me, and any, I'm sure, our wonderful audience watching and listening to this show, all can agree that we want to work towards a better world, a better planet, heal and clean up Gaia and make sure she's well looked after, because we need to be well looked after. And like you said, we're all connected, everything's connected. So, from your perspective, what we've been talking about healing modalities and things that you suggest people to do to help with, just life in general, but with this mental health issue, that epidemic, if you will, that we have right now, what are maybe some of the causes you see from this? And more importantly, though, what are some solutions? How can we get through this? What are some ideas here that we could at least start to think about in terms of getting this world to be a little more healthy and a little
Yes.
less depressed?
Yes.
How do
So
we do that?
where does the depression and anxiety comes from? First of all, right? Depression comes because you're being suppressed. You're being suppressed out of the conditions and program that our society has put on us, from our parents, our religion, corporation, our government has put certain program into us, and as a result, we've been suppressed. We are been depressed. We are unable to actually express our true self. And instead of who we meant to be as a creator, because we meant to create. Human beings are not supposed to just live 70 years old of life, going to job for 9 to 5 for 50 years of their life, right? So we are already living very robotic, which is actually being placed by AI now, for hundreds of thousands of years. So we are moving away from our soul connection. We meant to actually drive on creating, and we're not doing that. So most people who are dealing with the depression and anxieties are living in the life that they are not agreeing with in their soul level. So in order for them to come out of a depression is to uncondition them. So take the programs out of them. But then in order for them to do that, there is also an anxiety that is kind of attached to it. Where does the anxiety comes from? Anxiety comes from the fearful mind, the fear that was, again, that put on us, especially with religion, is having people to not move away, go away, and then live in that little box that was put on us under the name of religion. So I love God, the Jesus, and there's so many great teachings from religion that we can incorporate, but the religion's not supposed to put a fear on us. Like, if you don't do this, then you go to hell. That's a very much of a fear-based consciousness that we lived through for fives and tens, thousands of years. So the way that I see as a solution is for you to be able to understand that you have been programmed with certain agendas for you to be in fear, so that it's easier for whoever has an agenda to control your mind to be able to control your mind. So first understand that, and then what you want to do is to peel off those conditions out of you. Peeling off those conditions and um, stories. Again, I'm basically repeating. My message is always this: you got to unlearn what you're given to you, and you want to create something out of your soul level, right? And then get connected to God and divines, because we are all here as daughters and sons of God to be able to do something God does, which is creating and loving. If you're not creating and loving, then you're out of alignment. You're out of a soul's path. If you're doing something that you hate, you're completely out of alignment. You're living in fear rather than you're living with love. So you want to understand, like, what is this something I really, really love to do? Not for pleasure, but passionately, something to make this world we live in, a better place by utilizing your gift. Is this something that I'm doing? If not, some people don't even know what they love. That's how traumatized we are. You want to understand what you love that is relating to creation, and you want to move towards to be on that path, and whatever that is crowding your consciousness is what you want to kind of let go. And that's where the breathwork comes in to help you. That's where the plant ceremony comes in to help you, because just with this conscious mind, just knowing the knowledge, will never really ever let go of these layers of the system that was put on us.
Yep. I completely agree, Yuri, and it's something we talk a lot about on this channel here is just, what the the ancient mysteries, but more specifically the ancient suppression that's been happening for so long, and it explains a lot actually of why we are the way we are right now. And it also, when I first came into this information of how controlled we've been and how suppressed we've been and how traumatized we've been for so many generations, for so many thousands of years, it really at first got me really depressed, and then I had to go through the grief cycles, I guess, getting angry, getting all, going through the full grief of it all, of just like when you have that classic red pill moment, like the Matrix, when
Mhm.
your reality just gets completely disillusioned, and you're seeing the truth of what's going on, and it is scary at first, but then with knowledge comes power. And now knowing that, yeah, we have been suppressed, and it is, terrible, but also at the same time, that's how we can move forward, that's how we can come together, right? And we can have these conversations and build this new world out of that trauma and work through this trauma. And ultimately that trauma is an opportunity for us to become stronger as well, right? To
Correct.
alchemize it.
Correct. Yes.
So I'm curious as well, you know all these modalities you're doing, of course, are some of them are more modern, some of them are based on very ancient things. I was curious what ancient cultures you've had a connection to, Yuri, in your journey, in your trainings, in your teachings. Are there any specific cultures that have really connected, that you feel a specific connection to, that you bring into your work at all?
So physically, I'm a Mongolian descendant. So I do have some Siberian roots from my ancestry. So I work with some of these Siberian shamanism modalities, working with mushroom, actually. The Amanita muscaria mushroom that I work with are from Siberian culture and as a main sacrament that utilize it. So I work with them and I follow the direction of working with mushroom to access this other dimension in a very important dates that we have, which is equinox and solstice. So those are the times that I facilitate ceremony for people to go deeper into, to understand more than what we can understand with our conscious mind. And I also facilitate full moon ceremony. Full moon ceremony isn't just from Siberia, it's from all over the world, and it's related to my ancestries from not only from Asia, but also from Native American tradition, who is also my teachers who helped me to learn about drumming and working with the moon cycle. Working with the full moon is just a natural way for us to be able to practice some of this living as a conscious human being, because it represents the darkness, the shadow. It represents our emotional field. It represents our subconscious. So we go out during the daytime and we work, we do things, and then we live the life more with the physical base. And when moon is rising, we meant to do actually what the moon is asking us to do, which is to look deeper in and look at your shadows, look when you're sleeping. And that's the practice of performance ceremony, for us to be able to just not be so positive all the time. We want to be positive, but we want to understand what we want to understand about negative. We want to understand what is my shadow and what my darkness is. When you know that you can balance it out, it's kind of like this. If you just want to be positive all the time and you just say light and light, only the light and light and light, then you don't want to accept the darkness, which is part of our life. And our ancestors actually taught us the most that balancing the light and darkness is the way of living on this earth. So my work is more of a shadow work. My work isn't just about singing and being in a beautiful space and positive space. I mean, I'm all about positivity, but I'm also enthusiastic on bringing the darkness and integrate that so that it can help us. Instead of ignoring and suppressing and putting it aside, you want to understand your shadow. You want to understand what is stopping you. It's a part of you, and you want to have a peacemaking with that part of you that would be very helpful. And it's something that we were taught from our ancestries. And it's also, I mean, my ancestries, in my soul's journey is also from Middle East, where we had the Atlantis, where I did my practice as a priestess. And all of what is very trendy right now, the light languages and the symbols, we work with all of that. So in my deeper work, I utilize that part of it and mix it with what I do. So I make medicine and I'm bringing in that modalities into my medicine making. And when I'm making medicine, I go into the meditative state to connect to my old practice from the time of Atlantis, so that we can connect to our past self, our future self, and present self more harmoniously. The reason I do my past lives isn't about let's dig out our past lives and understand what we did. It is more of our past lives actually exist at the same time our future life is. It based on what we reframe from our past life dictates how our future life is going to manifest. So I do time travel method. It's one of my main theme that I do. And there are many ways that we can time travel to access this information from our Akashic records through deeper meditation. And we could get some help of this through working with the plants, working with some meditative practice like regressions and meditation. But we can't really access those information again with our conscious mind. So this is a deepest part that I practice with, working with the plant spirit that can guide me back to my lineage.
It's so powerful, Yuri. I appreciate that too, especially with the shadow work. It's something that a lot of people can get scared of, and especially in the spiritual community, it's all love and light, man. But of course, we got to have the shadow. The shadows where we have a lot of wisdom to take, and a lot of power, and a lot of understanding about ourselves. Of course, the yin and yang symbol from Asia is obviously an ancient symbol of balance. Integrating the dark and the light, the masculine and the feminine. We live in a dualistic universe, so we can't ignore the shadow. And I'm glad you said that. You mentioned Atlantis, and I have to ask, as obviously we love that topic here on the show. What is your perspective on Atlantis? Obviously, a lot of different people have a lot of different perspectives, and through
Mhm.
your time traveling
Yes.
methodology, what have you found? What is your definition of Atlantis? Did it how did it fall like it does famously in the did it like what's your version of Atlantis? What does it look like for you?
Yeah, so well, I always knew that I was connected to Atlantis, and I have gone back to Atlantis many, many times through my meditation practice, and I led many people to go back to the time, and then found out some sceneries and some stories that was behind. And basically, what we're doing right now is actually repeating what Atlantis has gone through. So it's going to accelerate, especially this year, next year, it's going to accelerate. So we may experience something very similar as um, some incredible innovations and practice that can connect us to multidimension physically, which is what I understand where we are at from the time of Atlantis. We were basically living both dimension at the same time in Atlantis time, and that's where we're headed right now. So we are basically repeating the time of Atlantis at the time at the right now. And all the beings, all the souls who are there are meeting again, and actually kind of what we're doing right now with New Life, New Living Expo is all those Atlanteans who actually had all the lives and wisdom are reuniting through is what I understand is happening. At the same time, what happened with fall of Atlantis was there were corruptions that happened within as we received all this abundance of advanced technology and connecting with the multidimensional being. And again, there were just like because we are not on other dimension fully, we are still on three dimension. So we have these beings who likes to actually take over. It's just how the Earth system is as in three dimension. So we are gonna get that same challenge as what we experienced from Atlantis. And what are we gonna do differently this time? So that is actually something that you and I and all the community in this field who understand the mission of revisiting Atlantis is coming in place is what can we do differently because we did not succeed last time. So that is the biggest mission the light workers are facing right now. Um, Obviously the biggest thing that I learned that what we must overcome is to actually get rid of the anxiety and fear because that is a part that we weren't able to kind of overcome and we kind of get more fear at the time. So now we are basically in a mission to kind of like how do we work with the fear.
I love that, Yuri. And I would love to your perspective on I feel like we're all here to create the new version of Atlantis, the positive version that we were trying to do perhaps in the past, and it didn't work. And I wonder, since you were speaking about this earlier, and I agree that, well, time is not linear anyway, and our past is maybe more of a parallel rather than an actual
Mhm.
past, so that while we're working towards this new version of Atlantis right now, in a way we can also heal that previous version of Atlantis in the present time moving forward, right? And I think probably a lot of the souls that you said or that are here right now have come, for to try to learn from our past in Atlantis to create a beautiful new world here. And I feel that we're on the right path. I mean, that's just my intuition. I know there's a lot of craziness out there, but I truly feel that, as you've been saying too, as long as we can all focus on, of course, we got to still be of service and help other people, but we need to focus on our own well-being and our own anxieties, and really do the best we can to heal ourselves, I think. And as long as we can really just work on ourselves and create the best version of ourselves, that then everything else we do in service to help others, to be compassionate, we still need to be helping and working with other people. But it's that classic ideal, or that classic example: if you don't put the oxygen mask on first, you can't
Yeah.
help other people. So, with that it being said, I how do you feel we're equipped right now to build this new earth, this new version of Atlantis? What do you think? Are we ready?
We are ready more than ever, and that's where the self-love came back into our life. So, as I mentioned, fear is the most important part that we must overcome. So, what we did from back in Atlantis were when, because the fear is gonna come. Fear is gonna come when something was to birth. Fear is coming, and what we dealt with was that instead of like owning it within myself, we wanted to put that responsibility to the leaders, and then we got fearful. And that's how we kind of like, you know, allow the fall of Atlantis to happen. And this is happening again as a bits of pieces here, that we want somebody to come and save us. We want the leaders to save us. We also even want like an aliens to come and save us. But what we're forgetting, and which is what we also did from the last fall, is that we're giving the responsibility to others rather than to myself. Because ultimately, this is my earth and this is my Atlantis. And this is yours as well, Chris, right? And what we are confusing is that there is something greater than myself for the universe to become the heaven on earth, and we're giving that power to outside rather than myself. So you're absolutely right. It's just really myself. How can I overcome these challenges in this traumatized world? And where do I want to go? Do I want to give that power to whatever the leaders, the form, to save me? Or am I going to be the savior of my soul and overcome the fear that comes from every direction that is about to come? Because the new world, the multidimensional world, the paradise, the heaven and earth that we all want to go, called the new world, is going to happen, but they don't want the fear to come with you. If you have the fear, you're gonna stuck in the old world with the new world order. The new world, the new earth that we're creating, we're making a decision to not bringing in the fear like we did from the last fall.
That's so well said. I appreciate that, Yuri. It is important that we just stay true to ourselves, I think. And we have a savior complex in the sense of we're looking outside of ourselves for a savior. And that could even be, I've heard some people talk about, that's even in our DNA, that we have a worship gene that's been put in there. And like you
Mhm.
said, I mean, there's just been so much that is, um, that other beings, entities, organizations that have tried to suppress us for a long, long time have been doing. And ultimately, I feel that we're at a space where now we can break free from that. And all the practices that you've mentioned today are great ways for our audience and for the rest of the planet to break out of these patterns and these confinements from fear and anxiety and all the things that are still plaguing our planet today. And ultimately, if you look at the technology and this new earth that we're moving into, this new dimension of reality for that matter, we need to have a new level of consciousness for it anyway. We cannot bring fear and anxiety, certainly not to the extent that we have right now, at least, into this new world. Because how are we going to manage advanced AI? How are we going to manage advanced technology if we're still in fear and fighting amongst ourselves and killing each other? I mean,
Exactly.
that sounds like a real bad situation, actually. And if I was an ET looking at us, I would not want to be giving us any technology until we're ready for it, right?
Exactly, exactly. So this is where we can get a little help from mushroom.
Mm,
Just with the leaders and leading, it's just like everything. When you go to like a Tony Robinson exhibitions, everybody gets, oh yes, we're gonna follow, you're great, and I'm gonna do it. And people don't do it. People don't do it again because it's the programs and old patterns that is embedded in you. They have more power. So this is where some people say, oh, isn't that a drug? No, it's not a drug. The drugs are something that's made out of the lab. The mushrooms are put on here. It's a little help from other dimension so
yeah.
that we can connect to other dimensions so we can see it better than just with our three-dimensional conscious mind.
Mm.
So I don't use the mushroom for me to get high. I don't even get high actually from taking mushroom. What I love about working with a mushroom is your consciousness expansion to another dimension. And that's the reason why I practice mushroom practice
Mm.
because you're not going to get that access from anywhere else.
Yeah, it's the Aldous Huxley talks about it's the doors of perception that open up, and these different psychedelics like psilocybin as an example, like these beautiful mushrooms that do grow and just naturally on this beautiful planet. It is a gift because they open up that pineal gland, they release that DMT, and it allows us to access those other dimensions. And it's funny because I still think that without all of this suppression and with all the things that are pushing us down in terms of our abilities to perceive other dimensions and other frequencies, I think there was probably a time we would never have needed mushrooms because we were already so open. But the mushrooms right now are so helpful because we've been so closed. And the mushrooms can bring us back into what I would actually think is more of a natural state that we can have, but we just are so inundated with everything, social media, Wi-Fi, radiation, pollution, just go down the list, food, everything,
Yes,
right?
everything. Yes, yes.
So it's been a really fascinating conversation, Yuri, today, and I think we could kind of round this all up with allowing our audience to connect with you, because what are we really saying right now is that yes, we're moving into a really exciting new world, but there's going to be a lot of growing pains as well, and we're obviously still dealing with a planet that's hurting a little right now, or a lot, and certainly a species, us, the human race, that we're hurting right now. We need some help. So how can people connect with you, Yuri? How can they work with you? And just any way that they can see what you're doing online would be great to tell the audience.
Yeah, so I facilitate Fullmoon ceremony monthly. So it's the easiest way for you to kind of experience my work here online, and also I facilitate that in person at times. I create medicine myself in my kitchen actually that is supporting your healing journey and also to expand your consciousness with the different types of plants and mushrooms and flowers. So that's another easy way for you to kind of connect to my medicine. I do retreats and workshops all over, and I do have annual retreat. And this year, I'm facilitating a Sedona retreat for activation, and it will be from May 14 through 17 in Sedona. I also have a very short notice, but upcoming February 14th, instead of celebrating the Valentine's Day with chocolate, I'm actually going to have a goddess retreat and workshop in Los Angeles by the beach. So it will be full day of workshop to navigate your past and inner child and mirroring work and breath work and plant ceremony. All of them will be available. And I do the equinox and solstice ceremony every quarter. So if you're interested in deepening your connection to your higher self and let go of all the things, all the program for your past, I am here to support. My website is called mysticyuri.com. Mystic URI, and also I'm a founder of Isis Temple. It's called the Institute of Sacred and Intuitive Studies. It's a 501c structure that will help people to become a facilitator, also to educate people on and having a sacred ceremony available for all for us to join in. So you are able to check them out and meet me. And I'm everywhere in the California, traveling to different expos and fairs and events. So you could also join my email list so you know where to meet me.
And like you said too, you'll be at the New Living Expo, right? As well. Yeah, so that'll be
Yes.
great. I'll get to see you there. It'll be really fun. And yeah, check out Yuri's work. She's obviously such a wealth of knowledge as well. And we'll, as always, we'll have the links for how to get in contact with Yuri in the show notes below, everybody. But thank you, Yuri, for being on the show. It was so wonderful to have you, and just I really appreciate all the work you're doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Chris. I'm looking forward to meeting you too.
Likewise, it'll be great. Really, really, really fun. Looking forward to that. All right. Well, you take care.
Thank you, dear.
My pleasure. So, thank you so much for everybody for tuning into this episode of Ancient Mysteries on Earth. What's, as always, a fantastic episode of knowledge and things we can take away into our day-to-day life. So make sure you do get in touch with Yuri if you resonated with what she was talking about today and any of her modalities. This is the time to really be working on ourselves. Again, it doesn't mean we're forgetting about the other people, because I'm always for service. I'm always for helping out humanity. I want to help my neighbors, my friends, my community. And we cannot do so if we do not fill up our own cup, if we do not put on that oxygen mask first, right? So take into consideration what we were talking about today. Maybe you want to start a meditation practice, whatever that is, go for it. You got our full support here. And as always, if you've liked the show, please leave some love below in the comments. Give us a like and subscribe, all that good stuff, depending on the platform you're watching this or listening to this on. And as always, you can join us, Ancient Mysteries on Earth, for our sacred site tour. We do one every year. This year is going to be in Egypt in September. So come join us if you want to go to an epic sacred site and have an incredible experience there. We are really looking forward to it. As well, we've got the Therapeutic Music Library. That's our sponsor for the show. That's in the show notes below. If you're a practitioner that wants to use therapeutic music in any of your work, commercial free, check it out. And otherwise, we are sending you so much love from Ancient Mysteries on Earth to you watching and listening. And we will see you on the next episode of this show. Until next time, take care, everybody.